Live streaming is on.
Hi everyone, we are now joining the second session of the afternoon, which is dealing with climate change, making room for hope. As we know, this issue has been getting more and more awareness, more and more worldwide recognition around the planet. Recently, over the last few years, the Paris Accord have been, instrumental in supporting this involvement at multi-stakeholder level, and we still have many challenges we are facing, and we still need more voices and the creativity and innovation to make sure humanity will be able to find a way to solve this major concern and major threat affecting all of us. So I'm very pleased to be joined today by three people that are change makers in a way. They are in each of them, in each capacity, are contributing for finding solutions, federating energies and talent to work on that critical issue. And I will just start now to introduce all of them. So we are joined by Sylvia Enyo. Sylvia is Vice Curator of the Global Shaper Brussels Hub. It's an initiative of the World Economic Forum and recognized advocate in terms of climate advocacy. She currently works as a policy officer at the European Commission, where she focuses on innovative financing instruments for climate. She's actively involved in the matters of the 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, and she really, is trying to support the new ways to find mechanisms to support initiatives that are related to climate. We will then be joined by Sophie Peterson. Sophie is based in Denmark. She is a member of the Danish Youth Climate Council. It's a council that started operations in 2019 and has been, initiated by the Ministry of Climate to bring this positive and constructive thinking forward. She's as well supportive of developing the companies of the future and finding ways to involve the youth in those dimensions. Lastly, we are joined by Kazumi Muraki. So Kazumi is making us the pleasure to join us from Japan at a late time. Kazumi is a chemist and inventor and founder and representative of a carbon recovery research agency. I had the pleasure to converse with Kazumi on his invention, and I think what he will be able to share with us today will be absolutely passionate. So let's get started. My first question will be for Sylvia. Sylvia, could you share with us, with our audience, where has grown the seed of commitment for working on climate change from your side?
Thanks a lot. So thank you very much also for the very good introduction and comprehensive one. If I had to tackle this question starting from the beginning of my interest for climate change, I will start from basically the first, the most important, at least, conference of the party, the one in Paris, where the Paris Agreement was signed. I was living in Paris at the time, and I was a student back then. And basically, I got the chance to actually participate through a volunteering opportunity to the COP and could actually witness the decision makers that really made history in terms of climate change agreements, and that decided for a very strong commitment, one that was not really preceded at any point in time in terms of CO2 emission abatement and in terms of commitment towards climate resilience. So I think seeing actually this very strong political will but also at the same time all the difficulties linked to this, and actually all the failures as well that could have been linked to the Paris Agreement, made me really think about this issue that we're witnessing nowadays, and how important it was that it wouldn't remain between closed doors, but rather that it really got outside of the scientific community, but also the decision making and political community, to basically reach individuals and people that perhaps would not be knowing that much of the science of climate change, but rather could still be committed about this issue that is going to affect everyone's life. And that is when actually I started becoming more and more interested in climate change in itself, and embarked in a career that was linked to this, but at the same time also was started to become active on climate change initiatives and awareness throughout the Global Shapers community.
Well, Sylvia, thank you very much. And I think here the important as well message, it started, by volunteering. So we all can start a career and a commitment by first making the first step, which is giving our time, giving our passion, giving our ability to listen and learn. And I think that is a very empowering message, knowing that you are, I would say, moving very fast in the involvement at multi-international levels to support climate elements and contributions. So thank you very much for sharing that. I turn myself now to Sophie. So Sophie, same aspect. We know Denmark is very advanced in the matters of environment and sustainability, but we are curious about knowing as well what is the story behind your involvement and commitment.
Yeah, so as you're saying, even though Denmark has kind of a green image outwards, we still have one of the highest consumptions and CO2 emission rate per capita. So it's still a country where people very much like to consume and all those other things. For me personally, it started with a lot of focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. And as a really early student, we were presented to this. We were encouraged to dive deep into them, especially in 2015, where they changed to actually take a stance on what the next goals, the goals that we have now, should be. And that been fundamental for me in my journey, since that I needed to take a stance on what I wanted the Sustainable Development Goals to be. And to me, that made me focus on climate, since I believe that it's the one thing that's going to push back or take under the legs away from different, all the other goals, as well as this being the one thing that, so we have equality, we have education, a lot of the other goals that are actually high on the list of solutions to climate change. So therefore, to me, it's an essential goal. And that was more or less the one that started then including early school assignments on mass extinctions, stuff like that. Then how can we gather social movement, started groups on my local high school within climate environment, started startups within this, impact startups. So then it just kind of rolled from there into the Danish Youth Climate Council.
Thank you very much. It feels indeed, like as well very much connected with the other session we will have just after, which is about the youth empowerment.
Yeah.
It looks like there is some direct connectivity of the youth and the new ways mobilization is happening around the cause of climate change. I think we will dig a little bit, on that, and I will be very interested to have you share how the two relate, because I think you are the examples of the concrete examples of this statement. If I turn now myself to Kazumi, Kazumi. You are as well, I would say a member of the youth, but you are so advanced in terms of science and invention. So could you share as well a little bit about how came your passion for creating through innovations technologies that can, be supportive to solve the challenges we are facing today? Kazumi, we need you to unmute yourself. Just Yes. I can't hear you. Can you hear Kazumi? Kazumi, we can't hear you. Can you check your sound? Yes. Can you unmute? No, you need to unmute. No, the sound. Can you try to log out and log in? Let's try to see if we recover Kazumi from Japan. Okay. Kazumi, yes.
Thank you right now.
Very, very good. We hear you now. Please,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So can I share my screen right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I invented a machine called Hyase that can remove carbon dioxide from the air directly to avoid global warming. So I will show you the picture of my invention here. How can I show you? Maybe this one. Okay. Can you show my screen? Can you see my screen?
We can see
okay.
your screen. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, when I was in the first grade of elementary school, so maybe 10-year old or so, I started my research, and there are a machine that can remove carbon dioxide, like with direct air capture technology in the world. But I thought that we need a tiny machine that can use in our daily life. So I invented this. This is hiyasu. In Japanese, hiyasu means cool down. So yeah, hiyasu means cooler of the earth. And you can remove carbon dioxide from the air directly by only pushing the button button of the hiyasu. And also I'm doing my research to I'm researching the way to convert carbon dioxide into methane or ethanol or some other fuels for rockets, cars and ships and airplanes and so on. So this is my research, and I made 21 hiyasus 3 years ago or so, and now hiyasu are shipped all over Japan, and now I'm aiming to ship it all over the world. And also I invented Tolusi is like kind of well, this machine can extract carbon dioxide, take carbon dioxide from hiyasu, and also now I'm doing research to convert carbon dioxide into some useful materials as fuels. Yeah, this is my research right now. So yeah, this is all about it.
Very nice, Kazumi. We will get back, into more details on how all of this work and operate. I am now back to Sylvia. So Sylvia, can you enlighten us a little bit about the different initiatives that you are conducting and how they are, like each one of them, in your view, impacting the overall global cause of climate change?
Sure. Maybe let me start to explain a little bit what is the Global Shapers as an initiative of the World Economic Forum, just to show you also how it is constructed and to explain how I think that this is really a powerful setup to actually enforce and build up all over the world young people that are committed towards climate change and other impactful goals in our society. So essentially, the World Economic Forum came up with this initiative to basically tackle a generation that maybe was not necessarily part of the World Economic Forum at first, young people between the age of actually 18 and 27 that were committed towards basically impactful goal and wanted to improve our society, and climate change was one of the most important ones within these goals. And the way in which the Global Shapers is structured is that there's hubs all around the world in major cities all around the world. There's of course one in Copenhagen as well, and one in Tokyo, or maybe actually more than one in Tokyo at the moment. And these young people were selected according to basically a curatorship that is set up in each of the cities, and commit themselves towards volunteering activities all across the world that are linked to impactful areas that are close to the World Economic Forum. And in the area of climate change, actually all around the world, there's been very, very interesting and promising activities that really range from planting trees in Colombia, or doing awareness and ocean cleanups in some African countries, or working on basically sustainability and circular economy in Germany. And in Brussels at the moment, what we're doing is that we're doing an awareness raising initiative that is basically explaining people how to green up their life. It's called Vers ma vie, and essentially the idea is to teach people how they can live more sustainably. And we're also, since Brussels is a city that suffers from a lot of problems of congestion, car congestion and so on, launching an initiative to encourage people to take the bike, which seems like a simple thing, but actually in the city is not as used as is not really used, or is not culturally the most common tool, the most common transport tool to use. So essentially what we're doing is we're embarking in initiatives, volunteering initiatives that have a local focus, but they also are replicable on a global level. And this structure, I believe, is very powerful, because it allows people to actually first think about the problems in our local society, what our city suffers from, and what should we do to improve basically the climate change in our city. But then it also allows to create this community that would be inspired and create and able to inspire other young people really all around the world towards basically doable actions that they can embark on towards fighting climate change.
Very nice, very nice. We like to see a bottom up approach that can be able to move to, at some point when the practice is good and fruitful, to maybe scalability and usage in other part of the world. So I think this is probably a part of the solution. So thank you for sharing that. If I go back now to Sophie, so concretely, the different initiatives that you are supporting as well, can you give us a little bit more granularity and flavor of what you are conveying and doing at the moment?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm actually also one of them young people interested in sustainability. So I joined Global Shapers Copenhagen Hub last year. So yeah, really good community. We are doing in Copenhagen, having a project on circular economy, as well as trying to lower food waste from corporates by having leftover lunch go to students for free. So we actually feed both students and reduce the food waste. For me, within the Danish Youth Climate Council, how we basically work is that we were 10 young people from all of Denmark that were elected in March 2019. Then we work, it was set up by the Climate, Energy and Utensil Ministry in Denmark. And we basically work together with them to come up with solutions from what do young people of Denmark want in terms of combating climate change, and what do we want as the new laws. So basically we meet with the minister twice a year, otherwise we can draw on the resources from the ministry in terms of research and some of their experts. Then we go and we talk to businesses, we talk to NGOs, we talk to youth, and we try to understand what the best solutions are for Denmark in terms of combating climate change way ahead in the future, instead of typically like normal politicians who might look only 1 or 2 years ahead of time. one of our quite concrete projects that I'm working on at the moment. So a few of the members in the council represented other youth groups, so large youth organizations, climate movement, nature associations, and stuff like that. I'm an individual member of the council, therefore I wanted to have a role where I go out and reach the youth. So I'm creating a local youth climate councils. So basically going to each individual municipality, trying to create a youth council within that municipality that then can go and contact the citizen council, the mayor's office, so we can get improvement and inclusion of young people within the climate debate, even from like primary school, secondary school, high school age, to get them included within this, to fight that they go along with their thoughts on climate change, that they can go together, talk about it, and they can actually be heard on a local level. I think that's where a lot of the action towards climate change should be happening. Instead, we can talk a lot, like you mentioned, the Paris Agreement. It was a huge agreement, but it took so many years to create one. So when we go to such big scale, it just takes a long time. It's so complicated to actually agree. Yeah.
Well, Sophie, thank you very much. I have two sub remarks and follow up on that. First of all, do you think that having a ministry dedicated for climate is helping versus, generally the fact that we have more environment ministries that are more capturing all the aspects? So that will be the first question. The second follow up question is, do you think that at just that bottom-up approach, with this local council of youth involved in climate that you are supporting, does the mayor, those municipalities are giving you the right, open-mindedness for the dialogue to be really constructive, or do you have, some recommendation in that aspect?
Yeah. So to answer the first question, yes, in Denmark we do have one environmental and food ministry, so that's combined, and then we have the energy, utensils, and climate ministry. I think it's depends on the country what would have the largest impact. To me, it's very clear that we need, when we're talking about this, that we we separate climate and environment to be sure in our discussions what we're talking about. But at the same time, they're so intertwined that I actually would think for Denmark that it can be useful to have them intertwined. Some of the research just goes such a long way. And whenever you take action on climate or whenever you take action on environment, it just impacts the other that you need to collaborate on in between anyway. So then, yeah. But of course, like in Denmark, there's also links between food and environment. So you can find links all around. It's just about your national structure. To your second, yes, we shouldn't promise students or young people to have a voice, to have a say within the mayor's office or the ministry, and then not be heard. So I think that's one of the most important points, that if anyone were to do something like this, then they should actually promise to have a meeting with them. They should take into account that they might have used half a year coming up with these proposals, talking to so many people, so they actually went well funded. They might seem radical, they might seem innovative, activistic, all that, but it might really in truth be the future. So if anyone want to do this, they should definitely really consider these advices that they get from young people. And then of course, yeah, don't tell them what to think, but give them the resources to find out for themselves, talk to experts, get access to businesses all around. That would be my main advice.
Very important point. Give them the resource. We have to give people that have the passion for solving some problems the resources to carry it forward. So thank you very much.
At the same time, a council like this wouldn't require that many resources. That's at least my experience. So we only need the contact to experts. Then experts freely want to talk to us. All of that. So in fact, it's quite easy for the ministry, at least, and for the mayor's office to have something like this run.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that it's more access, people, knowledge, and as well sharing the results or circularity of of the solution proposed. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Kazumi, if we go back to your invention, could you share with us a little bit how it works concretely? We understand you have, created a very cool machine, UC, which is a very nice name. But how does it work? And you have said, you produce, 20, 21 boxes, machine. But how can it be, maybe more used on a larger scale? How can we have, maybe Sophia having it in Denmark and Sylvia, like in Brussels and all of that? How can we make it happen to grow?
I see. So today I have the machine here, so I will show you. This one here. And to use this, you can push this button here and then suck the air from here and do a chemical reaction inside the machine. Concretely, like using chemical materials such like sodium hydroxide or some alkali materials, and then those materials can absorb carbon dioxide. So with this chemical reaction, I capture carbon dioxide inside the machine, and then the carbon dioxide that captured inside the HIASI, I can convert carbon dioxide into first methane. Actually, 3 years ago, I and also with the University of Hiroshima in Japan found a new chemical reaction that can convert carbon dioxide into methane directly. Those chemical reaction is called Sabatier reaction, and then it's already found in 1913, I think. So 100 years ago, but with Sabatier reaction, we need rare metals, so like lanthanum or some kind of rare materials. But I found a new chemical reaction, and in my reaction, you have to only prepare carbon dioxide and water and also aluminum foil. That's all. So carbon dioxide, water, and with aluminum foil, and then mix, and then shake, and then you can make a methane from only carbon dioxide. So that's the reaction I found 3 years ago, and then now I'm currently working on making fuel, especially liquid fuel. So I'm trying to make gasoline from carbon dioxide. So this is what I'm doing right now. And so in November, so yeah, this month, actually my new factory that generates car and ships and airplanes fuels from carbon dioxide will open in Chiba Prefecture in Japan. So yeah, I'm trying to operate. Actually, my research agency, Carbon Recovery Research Agency, called CIRA. So today I want all of you to remember my research institute's name, but CIRA. And CIRA has our ships. So I want to operate my ship by using my own fuel from carbon dioxide, and I really want to prove my theory that we can generate energy from the air. We can generate energy from carbon dioxide. I really want to show it all over the world this year. Yes.
Well, Kazumi, thank you very much for this passion that you have, and the innovation and all the hard work, because in inventors, we only see, like the little visible part, but there is a very big iceberg of work and commitment. And I remember the quotes from you: generating energy from the air and converting the CO2. So thank you very much for sharing that statement. If I turn back to Sylvia, you are involved with many international organizations, and as well with EU at EU Commission level. So if we have, recommendation to formulate to governments in Europe and beyond, at the G20 level, or more internationally, and you are very familiar with the Conference of the Parties. So what will be your recommendations in regards of climate?
Thank you. It's a tricky question, I would say, but also a very important one at the same time. I think the major challenge right now that we're trying to get is definitely political consensus and political build-in, because Europe is very committed towards climate change and has already come up with quite a lot of ambitious strategy. The first one is the Green Deal, which in the end basically seeks to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 and has already put out quite a lot of strong goals by 2030 to do so. And in order to do so, it also includes basically strategies that involve, for example, the emission trading system, but also carbon taxation within the EU, that will definitely spur, on the one hand, the retransformation of our economy and the innovation in the direction of basically climate change fighting, and in direction of definitely clean economies, clean technologies and fuels. But what I think is challenging at the same time is that the ambition that, say, for example, European countries might have cannot be an ambition per se. If we look at how the projection of, for example, population growth will go in the next 20, 30 years, we'll see that actually population within the European countries is going to perhaps reach something around 4 to 5% in 2050. So we're talking about an extremely small part of our population, which has an extremely small CO2 impact. And also in terms of GDP, Europe is definitely important, but it's not the biggest GDP producer in the world. As a consequence, we do need a buy-in, a very strong political buy-in of major other players and other countries all around the world, because we also live in a very strongly interconnected system. And that's why I think that actually having the Paris Agreement and hopefully getting the US to come back to the Paris Agreement right now, which will be a great achievement, this will actually implement the way in which it's structured is actually a promising one. And the next conference of the party will signal a strong commitment towards the national, basically determined contribution that each of the country has put out in terms of CO2 reductions and also climate resilience in each of the countries. So I do think that no matter what you do at the local level, which is fundamental and very important, it's also important to achieve scalability and to keep an eye out towards the fact that we are not, that our ambition should not only be for itself, but should rather serve as an example for other countries. And we should also engage with those countries to basically support their transition towards a climate neutral economy.
Well, that's very very well articulated. I would like just to have your view as a follow-up. We had the pleasure to be attending the COP21, but as well we did the major event in Marrakesh during the COP22, and I would like to have your view and the sense of how can we support developing countries and countries that are really trying their best, to cope with basic challenges of alleviation of poverty and reduction, of the problems of hunger and as well, some critical aspect, of access to water. So SDG, related agenda. So how can we support them? Because they are legitimately, not in the same stage of understanding or just fighting the priorities. For them, the priorities is first of all their population. It's first of all the survival. That is the first element. And COVID is a very new factor disrupting all of that and making the situation even more challenging and difficult. So what will be your view and maybe comments or recommendation to make sure we will be able to build what you said, which is something more inclusive, a multi-stakeholder movement that will be ultimately supportive of a climate balance approach?
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that we should not tackle climate change as a challenge per se, neither in, say, European countries, nor in other advanced economies, nor in developing countries as well. But especially when talking to developing countries, what we need to focus on is on the fact that actually green transition means jobs and means economic growth. We need to focus on aspects such as, for example, access to electricity, which is very important. And the off-grid technologies have been really promising in the past and are demonstrating to be a very promising business in the future. So this will allow actually ministers of a country and politicians to ensure access to electricity, to clean electricity to all their population. We need to focus on disaster risk reduction. So the fact that climate change also increases the frequency of natural disasters, for example, and those disasters also mean very strong economic loss for the country itself. So those aspects that actually are linked to the fact that transitioning towards a climate neutral society doesn't mean sacrifices, but really means actually the creation of new jobs and being advanced in terms of economic development and technologies for the future of each of the countries that we're talking with is fundamental. Then, of course, having the ability to both create a private sector that is competitive enough and that is active enough to basically come up with new technologies and new innovation at the local level is fundamental, as much as it is to actually have dialogues at the level of ministries and basically explain to those ministries what kind of, say, a fiscal, monetary and financial instrument exists nowadays in the field of climate change that basically would help them to be sustainable and, for example, and be competitive on the international arena on that side. So I think these type of dialogues are fundamental. And again, let's not approach climate change as one challenge per se, because it has a lot of spillovers and itself is actually a driver for development. Fighting it is a driver for development.
Well, thank you very much, because I think this message and the way to convey this message, as you just articulated, which is about a new aspect of development and job creation and positive impact for the population by alleviation of the risk of disaster. That is a language which will be much more broader and which probably will have much more echo for many decision makers that are as well facing the complexities, as per se. Maybe just a last word about, the aspect of incentives, so incentivizing on the private sector, on the new companies that will be, encouraging on that, and the penalty for, maybe the ones that are really not encouraging. Are you favoring this type of carrot and wand, aspect? What would be your thoughts maybe about that?
I think it's, of course, a tricky set of instruments to be put in place, because no one wants to really say out loud that they're putting in place penalties for companies, especially if you're talking to ministers and politicians in a country that perhaps is facing quite a lot of economic challenges, as you said, also linked to COVID and other type of economic crisis. So what I think it's key to do is actually to set a path and set a goal in the future, and then explain that basically in order to achieve these goals, a transition is needed for certain companies that perhaps are highly emitters or so. And I think to do that basically gives a room for hope for the companies to actually transform their business model. There needs to be for sure also support on these companies in terms of giving them the expertise and the technologies to transform their business model. And at the same time, of course, incentivizing innovation, especially innovative technologies and ideas on the side that can actually be beneficial to climate change is key. But as I said, I think there will need to be put in place a mild approach, especially because we do not want to necessarily penalize companies. We want to encourage basically their transformation towards a new model that is more sustainable.
Well, Sylvia, thank you very much for all of those very clear statements and answer. Very useful. I turn myself now to Sophie. So Sophie, what will be the magic formula coming from Denmark and from yourself in terms of recommendation for the government officials around the planet, the G20 that are the more lucky ones from an economic standpoint, but as well all the world, because we will not succeed finding that solution on just an happy few, but this is about the planet. So what would be your maybe advice, recommendation, or thoughts for them?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Sylvia on a couple of her points. First of all, we want, or I think that EU especially should go forward and actually go for climate neutrality in 2045. We as a global world need to be climate neutral in 2050 to avoid or have the potential to avoid really disastrous consequences. So therefore, yes, it is great that we're going for 2050 now, but if we as EU, and as Sylvia mentioned, that we could go forward and be an inspiration to other countries, we actually owe it to go for at least strive to be climate neutral in 2045. Also to help then other countries that are struggling more economically, then they can have the benefit of going a bit slower. To do this, we need to invest, as Sylvia is saying, in innovation now, especially new companies. The companies that we have now, they will be 30 years old in 2050. That's the big companies that we have at that point. But we also need to know that the faster we start, the better results we get and the cheaper it will be. So yes, as Sylvia said, it's not going to cost a lot. We're going to have green transition, green job transitions, where there will actually be in new jobs, more sustainable jobs, even for the future and for the long run. And the faster we get started, the cheaper it will be. The more we pass 2050, the more money we will take to have to suck out with machines to suck out the CO2 or the carbon from the air. And depending on innovation and how those machines going to work, you can probably agree that it is quite expensive no matter what, and it would be better for the global economy if we reached that faster and if we allowed the oil to stick in the ground. So that's one of the key points for Denmark. At least we have the North Sea. So the key point right now is that should be in the ground as forever. So we're actually now trying to stop the extraction of fossil fuels from the North Sea in 2050, which is so far ahead, but they're doing the rounds for getting agreement for extracting oils in 2050 now in Denmark. Then yes, it shouldn't be a punishment, it shouldn't be a stick for the companies, but at the same time we need those incentives. And those incentives could be gathered through a carbon tax that in the EU is higher than now. The carbon tax that we have in EU now isn't really effective. It's not representing the actual costs of emitting carbon. So then by having a carbon tax, setting it now and letting it gradually rise towards 2030 to be actually expensive to produce carbon, we will actually make this proper incentives of promoting innovative and green startups now, as well as getting a bit of money back so we can actually have something to invest within technology that then can help save this CO2 that actually being emitted now. Yeah, and then during that, we of course need to think about the global perspective. We can't be putting carbon taxes that is that high within EU and then have incentive to instead import groceries and stuff from outside of EU. So we need to be an inspiration to other parts of the country, of the globe, by setting this example first. But we also then need, of course, the regulations to ensure that people won't go and import more groceries than they're doing now by having a border tax around the EU as well. So that was just a few of the general ideas. If we're looking at a more global or more European scale.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you very much with that overview as well. and the consensus that arise from your intervention and Sylvia's one. Kazumi, you are an innovator. You represent in that aspect the new generation of entrepreneurs and like private sector, and that was a very important point. We have to incentivize. We have to find a way to support people and stakeholders like you. So if you have recommendations or wishes to formulate for governments to support initiatives like yours and others around the world, what might be those concrete wishes or recommendations?
I see. So speaking of the incentive for removing carbon dioxide from the air personally, I would like to share all of you my idea that is called as CO2 economy. Actually, so first, well, why I made this tiny machine, I want to tell you, but so there are lots of machines in direct air capture technology in geoengineering that, for instance, the picture I show you previously, but I think each person should be involved in for actions against climate change, not only for the government or the company. And then, but the cost is more expensive than removing carbon dioxide from the air in large scale. So that was a very big issue. So, but I found a solution, and then that is a CO2 economy. And I'm working on creating a CO2 new economy with Dr. Hideto Tomabechi, the others, the speaker in other session today. But well, if you buy a coffee, you, for example, you pay $5 for that, I think. But in the future, I think if you buy a coffee, you pay $4.5 for that, and also 50 CO2 token to pay for that. That is equal to the carbon dioxide that emitted when well, so making like, if we make a coffee, we emit carbon dioxide to like make a package or export, import, and so on. So we pay for the carbon dioxide token for buying something. This is the knowledge of CO2 economy. And then I really want to ask all of you that who are watching who are watching these videos, but well, I want to realize carbon dioxide economy with some countries in the world. But so I'm now searching the country that will realize this carbon dioxide economy with us. So yeah, I want to I really wanted to share this knowledge, this notion of carbon dioxide economy. Yeah.
Well, Kazumi, you did it very brilliantly. So we for sure we hear your message of collaboration for establishing new type of economies. We had very interesting talks in other sessions with other way to see the economies of tomorrow, and I think that what you are sharing is another experimentation of what can be, like a matter for having people being aware of I consume this product and I know what is the impact that originated the product in terms of carbon footprint. So we are going to start maybe the wrapping up of the session, and I will address to you just one last question. This session is about as well making room for hope, and so I would like to know in a few words and few sentences, each one of you, what will be maybe the message you would like to share with us, the people, that might give us a little bit more hope in this challenging period. So Sylvia, what will be your thoughts in that regard and respect? Sylvia, we need to unmute yourself. Yes. Thank you.
I would say that we carried out a survey within the World Economic Forum among young people to understand what was the most pressing challenge of tomorrow according to them. And the most popular answer was climate change. So I think there is room for hope in new generations. And it's enough to look at them and actually feel hopeful about the future, because that's fundamentally what's happening right now. There is a revolution happening towards climate change awareness, and we are witnessing it right now. And I think this is definitely going to bring about change, hopefully as soon as we can, because we don't have a lot of time left.
Thank you. And yes, the youth, and you are absolutely, like yourself, the three of you, you are, when I see you, I see the new generation, and the generation that probably will find a way to do it differently. So thank you for being who you are, and keep staying young, because the age is not just being young. It's we can keep young in our head, and our values and ways to interact with each other. So thank you very much, Sylvia. Sophie, same element. What would be maybe your message to citizens of the world?
I fully agree with Sylvia that pursuing the message of the youth and the impact that youth actually can have is what's supposed to bring us hope. Youth have the special power that we, unlike politicians, are not bound to these 4 years or 5 years that they might be in parliament. So as climate change is going to be something that will stretch over the next 30, 50, 100 years, we need someone to look that much forward. And that's just not an advantage that the older generation have. We have the climate movement of the grandparents, because they can look into what the youth have and what the future that we're going to live in. And that's a crucial motivator for the youth, but it's also a hope to cling on to, that we don't want a youth generation growing up being afraid of the future. So we definitely want to integrate youth. They want us help shaping the future that they grow up into, that they become adult, the job market that they grow into, and also by starting by affecting education at the moment now, so that we can have those jobs switch into more sustainable, more prolonging jobs, already starting with the education of young children at the moment.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you very much. And I hear the education aspect to empower and give the new generation the access for them to be involved in what is important going forward. Kazumi, if you would like to share with us your message and your thoughts for the citizen of the world.
Yeah, so I've been working on researching carbon dioxide for more than 11 years or so. So yeah, I would like to say carbon dioxide is not an enemy, but it's a friend. I think carbon dioxide is a gas with potential to change the world, because in Japan, especially in Japan, there are no any we can't take we can't get fossil fuels in our land, but well, we can change carbon dioxide into fuel with the new technology. So yeah, we don't have to worry about climate change, and we don't have to see carbon dioxide as an enemy of the climate change. But we have to change the thought. So we have to change the think of think against carbon dioxide. So I want you to think carbon dioxide is our friend and also is a like wonderful materials that we can make new fuel for realizing zero carbon emission society. So this is my message.
Well, Kazumi, what a better way to conclude than and bringing new hope than considering the enemy of the past being maybe the friend of tomorrow. So thank you very much, all of you, Sylvia, Sophie, and Kazumi, for joining us and our audience today. It was a pleasure to see how much committed and passionate you are, each one of you. And myself, I must say that I am very full of hope when I see I see the commitment that you are showing us today. So thank you, everyone. And we are going now to start the next session on youth, which all of you are absolutely beautiful examples. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.